Alright guys, let me just set the volume and we should start within a few minutes. I hope volume is okay. Alright, yesterday I could not record one of the videos in this series because the battery in the camera was exhausted. Alright, halfway through recording the video, the camera shut down and I was just stuck there with a lot of thoughts inside my head, but I could not say them. You know why? Because the camera wasn't recording. Alright, today I have made sure that that the camera is sufficiently charged. Alright, yeah, so today we are going to talk about a little bit left over from the previous chapter. Okay, let me just, yeah. So the social and economic conditions of the later Samhitas. Samhitas is in the later texts. So we were in chapter number 23. Alright. So we were discussing social and economic conditions, and the last part in that chapter, that is education, was left. Alright. Now education, the way we understand it today, is largely the conception of the West. Okay, keep in mind, you don't have to take my word for this. You can simply just go on the internet and how did this entire idea of paying for education start? Who started the first school? Who started the first service? Okay, and you'll be surprised to know I'll not say anything in that regard in this video, because then things will start getting political, and people have a tendency to lose a sense of logic when they are emotional, and that is very frequent in our country. Alright, so yeah, so this entire perception of education being a means of sustenance, it gained ground, okay, not exactly partially, but majorly due to the colonial hangover that people have had, whatever. Okay, I see some of the uh, teenagers, some of the teenagers, they are beginning to understand the actual meaning of colonial hangover, or looking at things with a colonial lens. Okay, but there are people, I would say elders, okay, they have transitioned altogether on a different side. Okay, they are not able to realize the fact that they are looking at things through a colonial lens. Okay, so let me just make an effort and try to make things, try to clarify things, as in what exactly I mean when I say education during the Rigvedic times. Okay, so for that, first of all, let us understand how do we perceive education today. Okay, mostly, okay, now there is one segment of the society that is not bothered by any given change. Okay, doesn't matter who is the prime minister, doesn't matter on what ideology the country functions, it doesn't matter who is winning the elections, who is doing what. And that section of the society is the ultra rich people. Okay, they will not be affected by who exactly is in power, because they will play their cards right. You will see that most of the industrialists in our country will never isolate the opposition. There is a video on the internet, you can look it up on the internet. Mr. Ambani, Mukesh Ambani, he goes to Sonia Gandhi's house to invite the leader of the, not exactly leader of the opposition, but yeah, the political leader, the political leadership of the Congress party, and they, all of them were invited as well. Okay, so these people, these industrialists people, they are pretty smart. Okay, hence, so like I said, the ultra rich people, they do not care who is in power or who is not, as long as their interests are served. Alright, similar is with education. A rich person and their children and their offsprings would not bother if their child is scoring good marks or if their child is scoring less marks, because inevitably they know they have something to fall back upon. Okay, it is the bourgeoisie, okay, the middle class, the upper middle class and the lower middle class, and the people who are just near that near that line, or almost on that threshold of crossing over into middle class. It is those people who value education. It is for them that education has some sort of an importance in their life, because they view education as something that can give them social mobility. Okay, and we can again sit and debate that uh, is education in the conventional means, is it really necessary in the current times that we live in, especially with the proliferation of the internet and social media and all of that. Today, if you want to learn anything, all you have to do is go to YouTube and type that. Some or the other content creator might have put it on YouTube for you to learn. Okay, so knowledge these days is not a monopoly. Okay, you can easily write something on ChatGPT and ChatGPT will tell you, okay, this is this, this is that. So knowing a lot of factual information, okay, is not going to be a very important thing as we gradually move towards a digital future. All right, but yes, coming back to the education in the Vedic times. Okay, now this is our understanding of education. If you look at what exactly did education mean during the Vedic times, it was learning how to live. Okay, that was essentially the flavor of education. Whenever you were expected to go to the Gurukul and learn from the Guru, okay, you have to live with him. Why do you live with him? Because you need to see what exactly does the Guru do throughout his entire day. So you can emulate him. So you can improve upon the things that Guru does. Okay, this was what was meant as education, not simply just having a few textbooks, learning few things and again coming back home with homework or whatever. All right. So yes, whole of it, the Samhitas and the Brahmanas, I say I'll use it in a literary sense, not the priestly class, including the Aranyakas and the Upanishads, was looked upon as Shruti or revealed literature. Okay, it is the study of these things that was considered to be education. And what did these things have? They also had science, they also had philosophy, they also had a lot of other things, especially the art of war. Okay, knowing how to use a variety of weapons. Okay, nowhere in the entire literature of the Vedas it says that only so and so varna of the people were allowed to learn so and so weapons. It's entirely upon you. If you want to learn something, you just have to go out there and learn it. Okay, in fact, I don't really understand why people miss to see this very small nuance in the story of Eklavya. Okay, all throughout our school, the story of Eklavya is told to us in a way that it was Dronacharya. He did some sort of a favoritism in order for Arjuna to be declared as the best archer in the whole world. Okay, he asked for Eklavya's thumb, rather his dominant thumb that he uses in his archery. Okay, but there is also one subliminal message over here that almost all of us miss to see. Okay, Eklavya wanted to learn something. He just learnt it. He did not wait for a teacher to teach, or wait for an expert to come and teach him that thing. Sure, he might have gained some motivation, some inspiration from Drona, whom he considered as his guru, but all of that, what he learned, was simply his own hard work. That goes for everything. Okay, so your takeaway from Eklavya's story has to be that anything that you want to learn, okay, you can do it on your own, especially now with YouTube, and there are multiple apps on the App Store which provide you certificate courses where you can learn things on your own. Okay, so yeah, that is essentially my learning or my takeaway from the story of Eklavya. When you want to learn something and when you are convinced that this is something that I want to do, okay, you don't need somebody to guide you. You can do it on your own. All right. So this the topic of education starts in this chapter from page number 458. On 459, RC Majumdar writes, Vedic study, service to the teacher and chastity were the principal duties of a brahmachari. Brahmachari is these days, to talk to you in a Gen Z slang, that is the no-fap thing. Okay, meaning you're not supposed to masturbate. You're not supposed to release the male hormone that is inside of you. Okay, do not waste it. Okay, so that is what was required. That was number one. Another one was the Vedic study. Okay, simply just being on no fap yields you no good. Okay, you're also supposed to study the Vedas, who are supposed to be the revelations. Okay, service to the teacher. When you're living with the teacher, you're also supposed to serve him. Okay, you're supposed to do as you are told by the teacher, and you have no option, because it is the teacher who gives you food. It is the teacher who teaches you things. You are at the mercy of the teacher because you live in his house. Okay, so you have no incentive to misbehave. You have no incentive to just not follow the instructions that are given by the teachers, because your mere existence depends on the teacher. Okay. Now, in the Satpatha Brahmana includes all the essential features of the same sacrament and life of studentship, which are treated at length in the Griya Sutras. Okay. Now, once when you enter his house, the teacher's house, there are certain conditions that you must satisfy. Okay, all these things are mentioned in the Griya Sutras in very detail, but we will touch upon them very briefly. Number one is the formal acceptance of the pupil by the teacher at the request of the former. Alright, see, there is a... So these things were formalized, meaning you actually need to, maybe there might have been some ceremony, or there might not have been some ceremony, but yes, this was one of the rituals. There has to be a formal acceptance by the student that yes, I accept the so and so person as my teacher. Okay, that was number one. Number two was entrusting of the pupil to the care of certain deities. And now that he had accepted that, okay, I am going to accept you as my teacher, the second responsibility would be the teacher would assign him some duties. You are supposed to take care of these deities. Number three, the vows and duties to be discharged by the pupil while residing at the house of the guru, such as putting fuel on the fire, sipping water, and begging alms. Meaning, the food, okay, the food that you eat, you're supposed to beg. Okay, now in certain countries, in certain cultures, this might be viewed as something as humiliating and embarrassing. How can I ask for food when I can easily, because I'm a man, I can go to the forest and hunt for myself. Okay, but remember, what was the initial purpose of coming under the tutelage of a teacher? The purpose was to learn something. Okay, if indeed you were convinced that yes, I don't want to transition from a hunter-gatherer to a settler community, okay, you could have easily stayed in the forests and continue with your base instincts of hunting and then surviving. Let me tell you, in that circumstance, your life expectancy is pretty low. Okay, so now that you had decided to make this transition from hunter-gatherer to let's say settle down communities, okay, so that was the initial purpose. So you had to do what the teacher asked you to do. All right, and the last one is the dress of the pupil, consisting of a jina, the girdle, etc. The description of young Angirasa teaching his elders in the Tandya Brahmana and the stories. Okay, so there was also some uniform that the teacher decided. Among the subjects of study figured arithmetic, grammar. Language was obviously an important subject of study, since northerners are mentioned as experts in language and grammar. Okay, but this in no way means that the southerners were not good with language. Okay, there is a very famous saying that says that absence of evidence does not mean that the evidence is absent, or whatever. Okay, you get what I'm trying to tell you. So just because it's not written does not mean it did not exist. Okay, so we find mention that language, arithmetic, logic, science, grammar, all these things were the topics of study when you lived with the guru at his house. Okay, Next up is the example of the assembly of the learned in the court of the Janaka shows that the debates were often held under royal auspices. Okay. Now this you might have observed in your day-to-day life as well. Okay. And this you can also the elders in your family, especially your grandfathers, if you have your grandfather in your family, ask them about debates. Okay. They themselves frequently indulge in debates with their friends. Okay, it was something that was some sort of a hobby. Okay, confrontation in other cultures might be considered to be, a negative thing or an aggressive thing, whereas in the Aryan culture, confrontation is something that is encouraged. Meaning, if you have differences, bring it, let us discuss it, let us debate it, but the only condition is you have to be intellectually sincere. Okay, you cannot simply just in wanting to win, in your pursuit of winning the argument or winning the debate, you cannot be intellectually dishonest. Then that, defeats the entire purpose of having a debate. Okay, the purpose of having debate is trying to dig up what is the truth, or rather trying to dig up where exactly does the truth lie. So in that process, if you are blinded by your ego about wanting to win the debate rather than trying to reach a more deeper truth, that is what is currently wrong with our political discourse. But again, that is some discussion for some another video. Right now we are going to focus on this book only. All right, amusements and entertainments. What exactly did these people do for entertainment, for their leisure? Okay, imagine if you were living, let's say, 5,000 years ago. Whatever you see around yourself, okay, imagine all of those things vanish. Okay, starting from this cup, okay, everything that you see around you, even your houses made of cement and concrete, would cease to exist. Even the chair that I am sitting on. Okay, so imagine, close your eyes, rewind the time back 5,000 years, open those eyes, and you are suddenly living in an age 5,000 years ago. How would you pass your time? What would be your leisure activity? Okay, so let's see, what did the Aryans do for their leisure? Okay, there were professional musicians, lute players, flute players, conch blowers, drummers. Okay, instruments such as cymbals and veena were known. So they played a lot of musical instruments. So the music as a science existed in our civilization long before some other civilization learned even how to clap so that they could give a beat. Okay, so before they learned to clap, we were already having instruments to sing with. All right, we have an entire Veda, that is Samved, that is actually dedicated to the science of music. We treated music as a science, not as a hobby. Okay, so I guess all of you already know this deep down. Everyone knows this. It's just a matter of recognition. All right, so unless and until we stand up and recognize these things, the entire world is never going to recognize. All right, next up, food and drink. What exactly did they eat and drink 5,000 years ago? Again, let's come back to that experiment. Close your eyes, imagine everything that is, because the time scale is so large, everything around us was invented in, let's say, in a span of 400 to 500 years, be it internet, be it chair, be it everything surrounding us. Okay, so when you are imagining at that scale 5,000 years ago, there is nothing around you that was present. And the only thing that was present was the soil and the boulders and all those things, nothing else. Maybe some wheels. Okay, wheels, fire, that's it. So in those times, the Aryans, how did they pass their time? They played string instruments, they had cymbal instruments, they were singing, there were professional musicians. So do you think this happened overnight? There was no, there were no centuries of practice, trial and error to perfect these things. Okay, think about these things. Okay, it will take a lot to shatter all those layers of misinformation that our history textbooks has managed to instill inside our heads about our history and culture. Alright, so next is about food and drink. Grain cooked with milk, water, milk, curds, and ghee. All these things were known. Meat eating seems to be fairly common as in the Rigvedic age. Okay, right now we are in a transition age. We've already discussed the Rigvedic age in the previous videos. So if you want to go through that, you can watch our all the previous videos. Right now we are in age that is transitioning from Rigved to the Upanishads. Okay, so we are in that middle age. In that middle age, just as the Rigvedic age, meat eating was also very frequent. Okay, so meat eating seems to be fairly common as in the Rigvedic age. The Satpata Brahmana prescribes the killing of a great ox or a goat in honor of a guest. So whenever there was a guest at your place, you were supposed to feed them the meat of an ox. Okay, yeah, it's written. I'm not going to deny something just because it's politically incorrect. To hell with your political correctness. If something is written in my scriptures, this is and nobody exactly has copyright over these Vedas. This is the wisdom, centuries worth of wisdom for all of us to read. Maybe in the earlier times, certain sections of the community were kept away from this information or this knowledge. Now that we have translation, who exactly is stopping you from reading all these things? Think about it. Okay. Generally, meat was eaten on the occasion of some ceremony or other, but such ceremonies were performed almost every day. Okay. Now, eating meat wasn't a regular thing. Like, it's not you'll cook meat at your home as a regular meal for every day. No, that was not how it worked. Okay. It was only on some ceremonies where you use it as a sacrifice that you were allowed to consume that meat. But something else that is mentioned in this book is such ceremonies were very frequent. Okay. The normal meat diet consisted of flesh of sheep, goat, ox, the usual sacrificial victims. What man ate, he offered to the gods. Okay. Though tolerated as an ordinary drink, the drink of the people of the Sabha, it is often condemned as leading to quarrels and seducing men from the path of virtue, like dicing and meat eating. Okay. Sura, not Soma, Sura was another alcoholic drink. At least it was an intoxicating spirit. That is what is written in this book. So we can, I would say, assume for the sake of argument that it might be something as equivalent as liquor or alcohol that we have right now. Alright. So now there is no prohibition on drinking of it, but it was discouraged. Why was it discouraged? Because it encourages you to engage into fights. Okay. It encourages you to move away from dharma, the way of life. Right. The Yajurveda Samhitas mention a beverage called masara, which appears to have been a mixture of rice and something else with grass and parched barley. Alright. Next up is dress and decoration. I can very vividly remember when I was in school, okay, this was the dominant narrative, that the people of Bharat, they did not know the art of tailoring. Okay. Somebody else from outside came over here, they taught us the art of tailoring, and hence we started tailoring different clothes. Okay, and one of the popular narratives that you will hear in many of the historical sources is that why do we have saris? Why did the women in this civilization, why do the women in this part of the world, that is Bharat, why do they wear saris? Because sari does not require tailoring, it is simply just a plain long cloth. Okay, hence this is used as a logic to justify or corroborate the argument that the nationals of Bharat in the Rigvedic age, they were not familiar with the art of tailoring. So if they were not familiar with the art of tailoring, okay, now this is 5,000 years ago that it was mentioned. Okay, this is not me saying it, I am not making this up. The Urna Sutra, woolen thread, is repeatedly mentioned in the later Samhitas and the Brahmanas, but Urna denoted not merely sheep's wool, probably goat's hair also. Clothes were generally woven of sheep's wool. The fondness of the Vedic people for ornamental or embroidered garments was as keen in later periods. The dress in this period seemed to have consisted of three garments. An undergarment, okay, there were layers. It wasn't just the sari, this draping of clothes around your body. It had three layers. Number one was undergarments, adivasas, nivi, a garment proper, vasas, and an overgarment, adivasas, like a mantle or a cloak. The Satpatha Brahmana describes a set of sacrificial garments, silk undergarment. So if whenever you are performing a sacrifice, you are supposed to wear underwear that was made of silk. It is written 5000 years ago. So if the art of tailoring was not known to the nationals of Bharat, how do you justify these things? It is a blatant lie to say that the nationals of Bharat did not wear clothes. They roamed around naked. The women only wore saris because it was this narrow piece of cloth that they learned from somebody from outside. Okay. So the art of tailoring has always existed on this land, just like everything else. Okay, anything else that you hear in the public discourse about the people of ancient Bharat did not know how to do this, it is most likely that it is false. Some false narrative that was created to propagate and further a political agenda. Alright. Next is the turban was worn by men as well as by women. There is also some description about sandals and shoes. The frequent use of the variant terms for a warp and woof shows the great development of art of weaving garments. Alright, so this is 5000 years ago we are talking about. So how can a civilization, okay, have such advanced developed techniques of weaving clothes? How can you say that those people did not know the art of tailoring? Okay, because this is something that is used as an expletive against the nationals of Bharat in the Western countries. Remember, I am a fan of neither of the two, be it Winston Churchill or be it Mohandas Gandhi. Okay, but there was one sneaky remark that was given by Churchill about Mohandas Gandhi, that why the half-naked sadhu. Okay, it is used as an expletive that you people from your race did not know the art of tailoring, hence you cannot wear refined clothes. Alright, it's all out there. It's just simply a matter of you interpret it properly. Alright. There's also there's a book, Taittiriya Brahmana. Okay, this is again a commentary on some other Veda. So the book goes by the name of Taittiriya Brahmana. That mentions comb that is used to comb your hair 5000 years ago. A jewel strung on a thread was worn around the neck as an amulet. Finally, may be noted an interesting remark in the Sankhya Brahmana that sickness is particularly prevalent at the junction of the season. A very accurate observation indeed. Okay, there is a book that goes by the name of Sankhya Brahmana. In that book, it is written 5000 years ago that sickness is particularly prevalent at the junction of the seasons. What does this mean? Whenever there is a transition of season from summer to the monsoon, from monsoon to the winter. So whenever there is a transition, you'll see proliferation of sickness. You'll see that majority of the people, they fall sick during the transition of the seasons. Any commoner in this country will tell you this. Okay, this is common knowledge amongst almost all people in this country. You don't need science to tell you that whenever there are changes in season, you'll fall sick. But, people will ask for research. Where is the research paper? Who has done this research? Okay, where are the footnotes? Yeah, so we need to get out of this habit of trusting the West blindly with their research. All the research papers can be fuddled, all these research papers are written, to further a certain corporate narrative. There are multiple cases in the United States where one product, okay, the company might be producing one product and that product might have some adverse effect on the health of the consumers, but they will fund a certain research from some Ivy League school and they will pay those students to conduct a research and say that no, this product is not causing any harm. There are multiple cases. You can go on the internet and look it up. You don't have to take my word for it. Okay, so don't believe each and every research paper that you see on the internet, especially from the West, and especially when a Westerner is researching something about our country. They have zero knowledge when it comes to Bharat. They have zero understanding when it comes to Bharat. They do not understand our concepts of, let's use this word for the lack of a better word, they do not understand our conception and definition of religion. So do not take their word as an authority when it comes to our systems, our philosophies and our sciences. Okay, there has to be some clear distinction. All right. Economic condition. Let's see what was the economic condition during this transition phase. According to the various texts, such as the Atharva Veda, Vajrayani, Maitrayani, Taitrayani and Kathaka Samhitas and the Taitriya and the Satpatha Brahmanas, 6, 8, 12 and even 24 oxen were used to drag the plough, which must have been large and heavy. Okay, agriculture was something that was practiced widely during these times because I guess agriculture is the earliest profession. Okay, probably the first person to earn money, large sum of money, in almost all probability was a farmer. Okay, the Satpatha Brahmana enumerates various operations of agriculture such as ploughing, sowing, reaping and threshing. Okay, so 5,000 years ago they knew that farming involved ploughing, sowing, reaping and threshing. On page number 465, RC Majumdar writes, a fairly long hymn in the Atharva Veda shows the reverence inspired by the cow and the death penalty prescribed for cow killing outside the sacrificial enclosure tells the same tale. Okay, I'm not saying that cow was some sort of a god. It occupied that position of God because of the utility that it served. We have covered this in our previous videos sufficiently and pretty much exhaustively. Okay, the rationale behind why cow was a venerable animal to the Aryans in the Vedic Age was because it was the center of economy. They had transitioned from a hunter-gatherer, phase to a settler communities phase. Okay, so they needed a consistent dependence on cow for its dairy products. What if they were not able to catch prey? Okay, what if they were not able to hunt? Let's say it started raining suddenly a lot, you could not go out to hunt. Okay, so you had something to fall back upon, and hence you see, okay, all across this nation of Bharat, you will see each and every state will have some or the other version of milk sweets that are made from dairy products. Okay, do you think this is coincidence? Okay, there is a very fine proverb that is very early taught to us in school. Okay, necessity is the mother of invention. Somebody invented something because there was a need for it. Okay, why was the science of yoga or yoga, okay, formulated by the ancient rishis? There might have been a need for it. Okay, let's see. Next up is trade and commerce. Money lending was a flourishing business as is indicated in various ways. Okay, money lending was something that was a very well established business. Rate of interest is not specified. No regular system of currency or coinage appears to have been introduced yet, as no coins definitely belonging to this period have been unearthed, and no specific and undoubted reference to coins occurs in the literature of this period. Alright, so like I said, cow or the animal cow was a monetary unit because there is no description of any form of currency. Okay, so it is anybody's guess how exactly were these economies functioning. Okay, 5,000 years ago. Close your eyes. Okay, imagine you were 5,000 years ago, and again open your eyes. Anything and everything that you see surrounding you did not exist during those times. Okay, so how did they keep a track of monetary transactions? It was either cow or some of the dairy products by that cow. Okay, so hence you find no description of any monetary unit. Sea was undoubtedly known, probably some amount of seaborne trade as well. Okay, in the Aitreya Brahmana speaks of an inexhaustible sea. Aitreya Brahmana, written 5,000 years ago. Even if, let's say, okay, the West or the scholars from the West, they have claimed, okay, that the entire Vedic literature was written in the current day Pakistan, the area of Punjab that is distributed between Bharat and Pakistan. Okay, I guess that is again a misnomer. The entire Pakistan, when I say Bharat, the entire Pakistan is obviously included in it. Okay, so it was during those times when these texts were written. So how come 5,000 years ago, somebody living during that era, how did somebody know about an inexhaustible sea? Which sea were they talking about? Were they talking about the sea that touches the coast of Gujarat? Or were they talking about the ocean far wide, near the current day Sri Lanka? We don't exactly know. But how did they come to know of it? How can somebody 5,000 years ago sitting in the region of Punjab know about a sea, inexhaustible sea? Okay. Again, this is some sort of a thought experiment you can do when you are sitting idle and pondering about the history and culture of this land. All right. Occupations and industries. Although hunting did not form the chief source of livelihood of any particular class, it was practiced for procuring sustenance and for the protection of herds and flocks from wild beasts, and it was occasionally indulged in as a pastime and sport, chiefly by the members of the Rajanya class, as in the Vedic Age. Okay, hunting as a sport was played especially by the people who could afford tools and amenities that would assist them in the process of hunting. House building and means of transport. The house was large enough to contain not only a large family but also pens for cattle and sheep. So whenever there was a house built, okay, that house had also facilities to keep cows and other animals. Why? Because you were making a transition from a hunter-gatherer to settler communities. So you needed a consistent source of nourishment. So the house was large enough to contain not only a large family but also pens for cattle and sheep, and evidently had many rooms with a special place for the Grahya fire, which was kept continuously burning. Okay, this is something that is mentioned 5,000 years ago, that whenever there was a house constructed, inside that house there has to be a special dedicated place for a fire, and the name for that fire is Grihapatya fire, and that fire is supposed to keep burning continuously. Under no circumstances you are allowed to extinguish that fire. Okay, again, this is some practice that we have given up. Okay, most of us have given this up because we were ignorant about what is required of us to do. Okay, what does our faith exhort us to do? Okay, yes, so this is all that RC Majumdar writes about the transition phase. Okay, earlier there was the Rigvedic age, now there was a transition age where there were written the Aranyakas were written, the Brahmanas, the commentaries upon the Vedas were written. Now we are coming to the Upanishads, the age of the Upanishads, the final culmination, the conclusion of the Rigvedic thought, the conclusion of the Aryan way of life. Okay, or rather the Aryan philosophy. Okay, so that is chapter number 24. Okay, for those of you who want to see, sorry, this is, I guess that should be visible to you, the age of the Upanishads and the Sutras. Okay, so now we are going to learn about what exactly was going inside the heads of the people who lived during the age of the Upanishads. Right? Let me just organize this. Yeah. Alright folks, that's it for this video. If you like this video, do share it, do subscribe to our channel if you like our content, because we are exploring the history and culture of this land through an unbiased lens, and there are a lot of people out there who are doing this, and we are just one of them. Alright, so that's it for this video. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.